Bill. How you doing, my friend?
I am well. It's good to see you, Todd.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on. I know you're busy, but what dropped last night? And John Gordon will join us in a second.
Oh, that's great. So we've reported for, and give me just a moment. I'm going to pull in a little update that we put together in just this last hour or so. We have been reporting on the concerns surrounding First Liberty Building and Loan and the Frost family, the owners, since actually June 30th. And if you recall, you and CDM and the Georgia Record reported that there were concerns emerging at that time. And within an hour of the first reports that came in from what now we believe to be victims of what's happened here, there was a notice posted on the First Liberty website signifying that they had been taken over and were cooperating with federal authorities. So obviously very concerning things happening very, very quickly. Since that time, we've reported as more and more information has come out, but people have been, speculating as to what's underlying this. Is this some sort of scheme? Was it simply a mistake? What is it? Mm-hmm. And we've heard about more and more people that have been apparently impacted by this. Last night, the SEC released a press release saying that they had filed charges against Brant Frost IV, the founder of First Liberty and the company. And essentially, they are citing what they call a $140 million Ponzi scheme. Yeah. So very similar to, what we've heard of in past years about Bernie Madoff and others. Maybe not quite that scale, but 140 million is nothing to sneeze at. And unfortunately, we're finding as days go on, more and more people that may have had their own funds caught up in this. And those funds now appear to be deeply at risk.
Yeah, I guess we're hearing hundreds possibly in the number of victims.
That's right.
I want to toot our own horn. I did a little bit in the beginning of the show, but I started the Georgia show and then you joined us a little bit later. But I started it on April 10th of 2022, and our first guests were Herschel Walker and Rich Barris. But we have been pointing out the corruption in the Georgia GOP bill for 4+ years. And I feel somewhat vindicated this morning. I mean,
as well you should.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to bring in John Gordon now. He's with us. Hey, John, how you doing?
Hey, man? Good morning. Good. TGIF.
Yeah. No kidding. It's Friday. I was talking with Bill about, I started the Georgia show, John, in April of 22, and my second show
on April the 10th, my birthday.
Yeah. And the second show on the 17th was with John Gordon.
Really?
So, 4 years ago. So
I'm honored.
Yeah. So, in your show, The Truth with John Gordon, how long has that been going on? 4 years in
September.
Okay.
So well, 4 years. Well, I'm sorry, 3 years in September. We start our 4th year.
Okay. Well, what is your reaction? Bill and I were just chatting that we feel vindicated. We've been putting out a lot about what's going on in the Georgia GOP and with the corruption that we've seen all the way up to the top. But what say you about what happened last night with these charges dropping?
Well, it's I've got a lot of mixed emotions about it. I know every member of the Frost family. Mm-hmm. I happen to like them, but so I feel bad for them. Mm-hmm. But it appears that they brought it on themselves, and so I wish them no personal bad will. But unfortunately, it looks like that they've crossed the line. And there are repercussions that are ensuing. And so while I'm sorry for them, I mean, like I said, it sounds like it's sort of a self-inflicted wound.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell my kids, you get in this life and it feels at times like it's very crazy and chaotic, but really the better and the more you try to live a principled life based on doing the right thing, the less complicated it is. Oh, I've had one wife for 48 years. It couldn't be simpler. We just love each other. and sometimes I cross the line. I'm impatient. She's patient. She doesn't get mad at anybody for anything. I have a pretty short fuse sometimes, but you know, it just is, but we've remained true to one another. And that's my paradigm on life. If you do the right thing, and I can't tell you that bad things don't sometimes happen to good people, but for the most part, if you do the right thing, life is pretty damn simple.
Oh, that's good advice. I'll remember that one from my kids. So, Bill, I think you've been going through some of the documents. What do you have to reveal? Because I haven't had the time.
Well, so let's do this. One of the things I want to make sure people are realizing now is we reported this first on the 30th, but all of a sudden now it's hitting a much bigger stage. Now that the SEC has come out, this is, of course, being picked up locally by the AJC. They're also beginning to go a little broader and talk about some of the other connections that may lead back or from First Liberty into other politicians, other political campaigns, and connections. And we'll talk about that, I think, a little bit more in a few minutes. Fortune picked this up, and they're getting into the detail of what appears to have happened and where some of the money went. That's concerning. And even the Southeast Missourian, which I know everybody tracks, picked this up and is talking about it. So I think we're going to see much more of this. This is our own reporting, as we said, going back to the 30th of June. Now, the SEC went ahead and released, bear with me for a minute while I get this. The SEC released the actual complaint document that was filed yesterday, or in the last couple of days. And within there, you can see that the key charges are against Brant Frost IV and against First Liberty Building and Loan. But there are other what are called relief defendants. These are other companies which appear to have received funds which would have originated perhaps in First Liberty Building and Loan, or as a result of their taking money or accepting money from others to invest in these bridge loans. And yet some of that money appears to have been funneled into these 5 other concerns. And so they have, the SEC has gone after those concerns to attempt to, freeze any additional fund movement and then potentially recover some of these funds. And that's kind of where people are beginning to go. You know, many of these folks with 300 investors detailed in the complaint, many folks are saying, well, gosh, how many of these people still have money invested and how badly have they been hurt? And we've already seen cases locally reported by the Noonan Times, Herald, and others talking about hundreds of thousands from folks to, retirees, which, God forbid, may have put the majority of their retirement funds in with First Liberty and may now be
what a shame.
In desperate shape. And that, to me, is probably one of the most hurtful aspects of this, was when you get into timing, those impacted and other things. I do agree. It's not good to see, and you shouldn't. We shouldn't jump on people because of bad fortune. But one of the most hurtful parts of this are the innocents that may have been hurt in these transactions. Yeah.
Well said.
John, I want to get your opinion. You were pretty vocal recently on the show about what you thought should happen after this. Where are you now? And how do we go forward to the Georgia GOP?
I guess at the sake of being immodest, could say I was prophetic.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I think the feds need to come and investigate. Little did I know they were already here doing the work. But none of it has felt right to me from the outset. And I remained silent because I just really did not know, but my instincts told me that something was very wrong. Mm-hmm. And I did have personal experience. I haven't shared this with anybody until today, but I'll tell you now that David Schaefer approached me 3 years ago and asked me if I would serve as the chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. I told him that I would consider it. I later came back to him. He asked me if I'd made a decision. I told him that I had and that I would, provided that he would endorse me.
Mhm.
And he immediately was like, "Oh, I can't do that."
Hmm.
And I'm like, "Well, why, David? I mean, we've known each other for 40 years. I know you know who I am. You know my CV as it relates to Republican politics in Georgia. I attended the first Georgia Republican Party convention in Macon, in the first for me. It was in 1968 at the Macon Coliseum when Hal Suit was running for governor. He was a anchorman on WSB Channel 2. And he ran for governor and did really surprise people by doing really well. He didn't win, but nevertheless, it was the first serious candidate we had had since Reconstruction, really. So my Republican roots go way back. I put on a bumper sticker for Richard Nixon in 1959, and so it's just in my DNA, and so I felt very honored and privileged. But when Schaefer immediately backed off, and then he called me a couple of days later and he said, "Well, I think Josh McCoon might want to run." I said, "Well, Josh who?" I mean, I knew the name because he had run for Secretary of State, but I didn't know anything about him. And that was it again. I couldn't connect the dots. Something didn't seem right. What changed in 48 hours? Well, being chairman of the Georgia Republican Party was not the most important thing in my life at that time. So I kind of, like most things, I do the best that I can, but I'm not going to fret if it doesn't work out in the way that I wanted it, because I believe that God is in charge. And so I just prayed and said, "Well, God, thanks for your consideration. Maybe next time." It didn't work out. I'm sure you have a plan. So I called Schaefer and pushed back on him pretty hard. Like, what's this about? What purpose did it serve for you to call me and recruit me and then dump me at the door on the 12th hour? And he said, "Well, I was in Josh's wedding." Oh, so that's the criteria. So I've had a bad taste in my mouth for the process and the way that it went down, not because I really cared, but because it was just untaughty. It didn't feel right. It was like I've been played and to what end? I still don't know to what end.
Why didn't he want to endorse you?
I don't know. He said that it may do more harm than good. I said, "Well, you got a like 85% approval rating among Republicans. I'm not worried about the 15%. But I just don't know. I to this day I don't know what was up. But I've noticed, I've seen these people operate in that fashion. And they just play these little games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't operate that way. I just don't. And maybe that's why I'm no good at politics. And if that's what it takes, I don't want to be any good at politics.
Well, we don't
Grant Frost V said, "Oh, I will not make no apology if I'm better at politics than they are."
Yeah.
And my answer is no, you're better at dirty politics than they are.
That's right.
He
made that comment after controlling access to the microphones at the recent convention, if I recall correctly. Yes.
That's exactly right, Bill.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have any connections or proof that McCoon was involved with the Frosts at all in any nefarious way. We do have some observations that he appointed Katie Frost the day before the convention to the head of the chairman of the Georgia GOP Financial Advisory Committee, which is weird. We had accusations of McCoon using the credit card for his personal expenses and FEC reports being filed without what you could say is a forgery without the treasurer's knowledge.
Well, with her name on it.
Yeah. So
if that isn't forgery, I don't know what is. I don't think you have to handwrite somebody's name. You can type their name and you're representing that they have reviewed and approved and affixed their name to the document. How much more do you need to know?
Yeah, but when you see what happened at the convention, when McCune and the Frost were obviously teamed up. I mean, we have pictures of Brant Frost blocking the microphone from anyone else coming up to point of orders for paper ballots or whatever.
And
It
saying
looks
that
like,
if they didn't make nice, they were going to call the sergeant of arms.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
And the
so
sergeant at arms is pictured with Brant in a number of different places.
So it looks to me, I mean, what say you, Bill? It looks to me like they were trying to keep power for what reason? I mean, that's the question, right?
Well, it appears if we go back to what McCune and Alex Kaufman and others orchestrated last year, they sealed a particular agreement between the Georgia Republican Party, Inc., and John Padgett, a past chairman, for reasons that are unclear. They don't want the public to see that, and they fought for 4 months in the face of an amicus brief that we, along with others, filed to ask that the court consider keeping that document available to the public's eyes. They fought to have that sealed, and literally the night before the hearing, at about 9:30 at night, they reported that it had been sealed. Seems odd, a court would be working at 9:30 at night. But in any case,
what do you make of that? What do you suppose is in that document that we shouldn't be able to see?
We honestly don't know, but I can tell you what I don't think it is. They talked openly in court during this hearing the day after about the numbers involved with attorneys' fees and other things that were related to an earlier case between Padgett and a young lady that had charged him with discrimination.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
And so they talk pretty openly about the numbers. So we thought, well, what else could be in there that that other than the numbers that they don't want the public to see? And the only thing, in my opinion, that I could come up with must be actions or decisions. Something that went back as far as 2014 in this case, that something was done, some decision was made, some action was taken that simply cannot be allowed to be seen by the public. We don't know what it might be.
Why would a court go along with that? Why would they participate in what sounds like a cover-up?
Well, it's very interesting you should ask that. We sat in court and appeared, the amici, several of us went to court on every hearing date and tried to send the message to the court and judge herself that we were honestly looking for public disclosure of this information. And it seemed as if we were getting support. She did not immediately rule against the amicus brief. She really made no comment about it. And it stood the test of time for about 4 months. Then, just the night before the hearing, all of a sudden, she accepts the proposed order to seal. Why would it be at the last minute? Well, that sounded like somewhere, perhaps, my opinion again, perhaps more pressure was applied. From whom? We really don't have a guess, but it would have to be someone above the court system reaching in and saying we need this sealed for reasons that are unclear. In my opinion, what would you think?
I don't have a clue. I don't know how anyone approaches a judge. I would never do it under the most dire of circumstances. I mean, it's illegal.
Yeah.
To backdoor a judge. And it's also illegal for a judge to allow themselves to be backdoored. So it makes you wonder what's going on. I mean,
it really does.
All that should be handled in open court. They should have come in and made their case for why it was necessary to seal those documents. And the argument should have happened in open court. you were suggesting that someone pressured the judge. I don't know. I don't
I'm-
even know how. I don't even know how that works.
I think suggest might be too strong a word. I'm just speculating that about the only other thing I can think that would cause it to happen at that last
Just
minute.
asking the question.
Yes, that's correct. And the other piece that we didn't talk about yet was even John Padgett's attorney himself filed a brief saying that they had no objection to the document being made public. So one side of the case said, we're fine if you want to make it public. So this was totally driven by the GOP, the Georgia Republican Party, Inc., I should say, which is distinct from most parties. So it is, it is fascinating.
I want to bring something up here. We ran a series. This is part 8. I think it was 9 parts in the Georgia Record of the Fulton County Trust scandal. Which it was a scandal. And essentially, just for our audience sake, in 20 years ago, plus 20 years ago, approximately, there was $2 million given to the Georgia Republican Party in Fulton County for the specific incidents only of supporting candidates. At some point, and this is detailed in the articles, that was changed. How it was changed is open to question, but it was changed to other expenses by the Georgia Fulton County Republican Party. And then even they admitted at the end, and this is what this article is about, they whitewashed it, saying it was mismanaged. That $2 million was still $2 million 20 years later. And so there are millions of dollars which should have gone to Republican candidates, which didn't. But they did go to Dominion lobbyists and other expenses. And so, there's a lot to unpack there. This is all tied together, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing we haven't spoken of yet, you brought up the expenses that are being now looked at very carefully within the Georgia GOP Republican Party Inc. spending, one of which is $5,000 spent with a firm called Best Guest Media. Their job is to position influencers and others who wish to be on air with media outlets that they want to get on. So, for example, most people will see that Katie Frost has been acknowledged as a Republican strategist, and in fact was just on Fox and Friends Weekend about a week and a half ago. Where was this money allocated? Why did the GOP spend $5,000 to help someone get on air, and who was it? And notably, no one has answered that question. They've gone dark on answering that. Was that for Katie Frost? Is that another connection between the GOP and potentially Josh McCoon and the Frost family?
Where is Josh Buffoon today? Has anybody seen or heard of him? Has he said anything? Sounds like old buddy Josh is maybe hiding in the hills somewhere. I don't know.
It's a good observation. The one statement I have heard of is that he very quickly after the first reports of First Liberty came out, he made a statement saying that the GOP had no money invested with First Liberty. We do have information anecdotally at the moment that at least 3 members of the executive committee of the GOP may have personal funds invested with First Liberty. We haven't identified those 3, but we're hearing that. And these tie-ins are beginning to get even more concerning. So, for example, were there politicians drawn into this? Were there state delegates who were receiving emails from Brant Frost in the weeks leading up to the convention? The emails began with interviews for some of the candidates, but then the back half of many of these emails had essentially an ad for First Liberty. So were there delegates brought into this? We don't know.
Well, I'd like to know whether that is a violation of the confidentiality agreement that everyone has to sign in order to get the mailing list. And the permissible uses are very narrow. I don't believe that promoting a privately owned business would fall within the permissible use. So let's have the $25,000 a day fine start to accumulate, or whatever it is. It's right. A ridiculous amount.
That's right.
Made only to chill anyone who might dare offer any criticism of Josh Buffoon and his band of little thieves.
When he was asked about the confidentiality agreement during the GRA convention just a couple of weeks before the GOP convention, he specifically said, one of the concerns and one of the reasons that they had this very onerous 9-page, non-disclosure, non-defamation agreement was because they were concerned about anybody using that list for commercial purposes. And yet at the exact same time, here comes,
they're using it for commercial purposes.
Yeah.
The
many
number
people,
3 guy in the state GOP.
That's right. And many people were reporting, hey, I'm getting this, but how did he even get my name? Oh, I'm a delegate. Oh, goodness. How did that happen? And,
rules for thee, but not for me, I think is the slogan.
Well, there's, I feel and have for some time a situation where this power structure is doing anything to prevent anyone from looking under the hood. What has gone on, and the closeness at the convention was on display between the Frost family and the Georgia GOP leadership. I'm not an attorney. I don't know the law, but what is the best way to investigate this without interference? I mean, you could go into the legislature with this. You could go into the governor's office. I mean, he works for Kemp. What's the best way to get to the bottom of this, John? What do you think?
I've given a lot of thought to that. I mean, my first knee-jerk reaction would be go to the GBI. Oh, but wait a minute, that's overseen by Kemp. That's probably not going to work. Maybe the FBI, maybe the U.S. Attorney's Office, or if enough people are really passionate about it, we could bring a class action lawsuit by members of the Georgia GOP who believe that they've been disenfranchised and that this organization has been literally stolen from them. And I don't think that that's hyperbole. I think that this Georgia Party Inc., for reasons no one really understands, and telling us that, all parties are incorporated and we can't find a single other party that's incorporated. I mean, it just smells to high heaven. So I think we're going to have to find refuge in the courts if you can. But the fact that they got a judge that would seal what should have been an open record is concerning. So look, it's an uphill fight, but I think journalists like yourselves shining light on it, and if the people that have been disaffected will come out and in unison push back on it, I think we can make progress. What we really need is a whistleblower, somebody in that organization with a conscience and a belief in doing the right thing should come forward and say, let me tell you what's going on. And this is what I've seen. And I've reached out to a couple of people in the leadership. Oh, John, it's so good to hear from you. How have you been? I was thinking about you the other day. And well, let me ask you, do you know about Josh Buffoon and the stuff that's been going on? And the high pressure and strong arm tactics that were used at the state convention? Well, were you at the convention? No, just like I wasn't at 9/11. Does that preclude me from talking about it or asking questions about it? I mean, well, I'm having lunch right now. Can I call you in a little bit, sweetheart? Well, hey,
bless your heart.
I'm still waiting.
I could almost guess who that call was to.
Oh my. Well, John, speaking about judges, and I'll just say judicial corruption in Florida, we have the same issues. We had Chris Gleason over in Pinellas and John Borgiano in Palm Beach recently, where the judge, the actions of the judiciary were just in your face, up in your grill, corrupt. And so we're facing that not just in Georgia, but in Florida and other states as well. Just a comment. But
I'm just processing,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you, we just need some honest brokers to show up and be willing to put themselves in a leadership position and make life simple again.
Yeah.
You just do it by doing the right thing.
I think in Georgia, we're luckier than many states because we do have a contingent of folks that have been involved. Most began with election integrity going back up to 4 years ago. but many have stayed the course and are still involved. And to your point, there has been talk of a class action suit that was predicated based on the convention. But who knows? Maybe it now becomes even broader based on these new developments. There's, to your point too, I think the pressure that's that underlies this First Liberty collapse is building on everybody that knows that they're between, a righteous place and a non-righteous place. And I think that eventually that is going to cause somebody to say, you know what, I'm gonna break for the good side, hopefully. And
and it will happen. Good always triumphs over evil. And but we have to work. We really have to work. We have to do what President Trump said in Butler, Pennsylvania on July the 13th, 2024. Fight. And maybe there's a lawyer out there that wants to make a name for himself and also take on a very patriotic act and come help straighten this mess out. And maybe there are a group of 20, 50, 100 people that would chip in $1,000. We could, I'll be the first. I will donate $1,000 today. And we can start a legal fund and we'll go file us a lawsuit, start doing discovery, hire an investigator, start questioning witnesses, and let the truth come out. That's really what needs to happen.
I'd be willing to bet that there's well more than 100 in Georgia that would join you. So,
well, it would probably cost $300,000 to $500,000 to effectively bring a lawsuit. So it would not be an easy effort, but it is a worthy effort, and it should be done. I'll do my part. Contact me if you want to join in. Anybody that's listening, just send an email to johngordontruth@gmail.com and we'll start a dialogue.
Well, we'll help in that effort too, as far as getting the word out, especially. Last word, Bill, anything?
So the other aspect that's now starting to swirl in this is who else might have knowingly or unknowingly helped this effort, and the scrutiny is beginning to broaden to folks that they may be other political oriented characters across Georgia. It may be other pundits that seem in some cases to have stepped in and made personal statements about the Frost family and their offerings. And so it'll be fascinating to see that aspect played out. Nobody has been noted in any of the documents or comments from the SEC, but boy, across Georgia this morning and in the last 12 hours, holy smokes, people are saying, well, wait a minute. These victims had said they decided based on what they heard on this show or this radio or this place. And I'm wondering what that might foretell for some of those
I
players.
said before you guys came on at the beginning of the show that I think we're the only people really talking about this, John and us. I haven't heard this anywhere else. I've reached out and they know about it. They're aware of it, but they won't talk about it. And I'm talking Conservative Inc. They just won't talk about it. So,
well, Brian Pritchard devoted 3 hours this morning, I'm told.
Yeah, Brian, I consider Brian part of our family. But you're right. But to me, that's very telling. And maybe that's why we were kicked off some of those other networks. Who knows? Yeah. Last word for you, John.
Last word for me tomorrow on the CDM Press media outlets. You can listen to The Truth with John Gordon. We've got Josh McConkey talking about the big, beautiful bill, Keith Gross about rogue judges and national injunctions, and Dennis Neal about Elon Musk, Trump, and Tesla. How is that for shameless self-promotion?
Perfect. You can find that show on the Georgia Record, georgiarecord.com, the Miami Independent, miamiindependent.com, or on cdm.press.
And on the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Yeah, there you go.
I plug you too. Don't worry.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're all good. So thank you. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Todd. Bill, nice to be with you.
You too.